All righty, I'll have to ask everyone to mute themselves, and what I'll do is periodically go through and mute people if I happen to see them unmuted by accident. So welcome to the Affiliated New Thought Network Speaker Series. Today we have Reverend Dr. Carol Lawson. Everyone knows her as just Carol, interviewing Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer, and I'm very excited for this to be here. It is recorded, as we said, and if you need to look at it later on, please reach out to me. And I'm going to start us off with an affirming prayer, centering prayer. So if you would, we close our eyes symbolically to all that's going on so that we're not distracted by it. And we come together in that one space, that upstairs room, that higher consciousness, that room with a window. I call it spirit, first cause. Does not matter. This is where each one of us was an idea in the mind of God, fully manifested. And as a complete manifestation of God and nothing else, we are each blessed and with all potentiality available to us in this very moment. So we sit back and rest and open ourselves up for this wonderful meeting. We keep our consciousness high and ready and open and available to that which seeks to come to us and through us. And it's with great pleasure and gratitude that we are here together with Anton. I release this and let it be so, as together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, John. Reverend Dr. John Karn, thank you very much. And welcome, everybody. My heart is full. And this fine gentleman and glorious light that I'm going to officially and formally introduce now is also a longtime friend of mine. So it is a joy to be doing this. But if you don't know too much about him, why, the Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer is president of the Affiliated New Thought Network. He's been studying religious science and New Thought since 1992. And he received his ministerial license in 2007, studying with Dr. Marilyn Hall, who was also an emeritus board member of ANTN. And he served as senior minister of the Joyful Living Spiritual Center in San Diego until 2015. He is a founding board member and currently director of relationship development for Urban Street Angels, an organization in San Diego with the intention of ending youth homelessness by providing housing, life skills training, and employment referrals to unhoused transition-age youth ages 18 to 25. He also serves as a staff minister. This is probably in his free time and for the OM Center for Spiritual Living in the San Diego area. He has several workshops, which we're going to talk about today. And he's also the author of the acclaimed book, Coming Out to Ourselves, Admitting, Accepting, and Embracing Who We Truly Are. He lives in La Mesa, which is a suburb of San Diego, down there where the Alperts, and with his English cream golden retriever, Maggie, whom I must confess I have seen at several Anton board meetings and who is quite lovely. And his son, Brandon, and family, and 7 grandchildren live near Eugene, Oregon. So that's a little kind of official history on Reverend Jerry. And today we are talking about some of the things that we don't talk about. This living in muddy water, or being at home in muddy water, which is the title of one of his workshops that we really want to talk about. And I have a sense that all of us are, Jerry's words may clarify a lot of things for us, but all of us are in the conditions of life that is unfolding, seen a lot of muddy water. So this is perhaps an absolutely perfect thing for us to be talking about, and a perfect time for us to be talking about it. But if you would, Jerry, maybe let's start off with talk a little bit about how this workshop came to be, or how you realized that you were the one called to put it together.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Carroll. An honor and a privilege to be with all of you today, and good morning and good afternoon, everybody. So many of you have heard the story, but in case you haven't, I was married to my beloved, who was also Jerry, for 33 years. And in about 2017, he was diagnosed with colorectal cancer and went through the process of chemotherapy, and the chemo did great things for the tumors, but terrible things for his physical body. And so he continued to lose weight and continued to lose weight and got weaker and weaker and thinner, and got to the point where because of the side effects of the chemo, the doctors pretty much said, there's not much else we can do for you. And then soon after that was the 2018 ANTN conference at Unity Village. I was the administrator for ANTN at the time, and of course had to attend. Jerry did not, but he really wanted to go, and we talked once, maybe you should stay home, and he said, no, I want to go. So he traveled with me in a wheelchair through the terminals from San Diego to Kansas City, and got into the conference, was too weak to leave the room, so I would bring food to him. And by Tuesday night of that week, he got up to go to use the bathroom and fell, and I was not able to get him up for a while. And so that night we determined that it was time to go home. So Wednesday, I called and changed the airline reservations. Wednesday, we took the flight home in the afternoon, connecting through Houston. And he had been quiet most of the day and wasn't saying much, and then was kind of mumbling and not making too much sense. And then when we got to Houston, he was in a wheelchair, and I wheeled him to the gate and went off to check our seat assignments. And when I came back, he was unresponsive. So we called 911. The ambulance came. They took him. They took both of us, obviously, off to Memorial Hermann Hospital. His heart had stopped. They were able to revive him once. And then his heart stopped again, and they weren't able to revive him once we got to the hospital, and he died. So it's Wednesday night in Houston, and my husband has just died. So made some phone calls, got amazing divine guidance in what I should do because what do you do when your partner or spouse or family member has died in a state where you don't live? So I got amazing guidance from the universe about this. Flew home Thursday morning, left his remains there to be cremated, got home to the empty house and sat down and started to cry and started to grieve and started to feel all those feelings that we human beings feel. And my ego said, no, everything is in divine order. Everything is as it should be. It's all good. And all of those other statements that so often we say in New Thought. And I really had a struggle with this because all of those statements are absolutely true. It is in divine order. It is all good. So that's the truth. But the fact is, our hearts are breaking. So I really had this struggle with myself and myself in coming to terms with giving myself permission to grieve. And as I was talking with other people, I found that a lot of people have this, that we cover up our feelings with these, and we'll talk about this later, but it's often called toxic positivity and spiritual bypass. And so as a result of that, and as a result of my ongoing healing, because it'll be 3 years next month, I created this workshop about the Zen proverb of being at home in muddy water. And it could be someone's death. It could be the change in a relationship. It could be the loss of a job, could be the death of a pet, just whatever it is. When we experience this grief, how incredibly important it is to allow ourselves to feel what we feel.
So thank you, Jerry. Sorry for you going back there, but every little bit that we let out makes us clearer, and that love that is the truth flows through.
Absolutely.
So let me just say then, happy anniversary, because this is an anniversary of that relationship, right?
Would have been our 36th. Yes, thank you.
So
Thank you.
Jerry and Jer, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
And that's why we're talking about this, guys. This is, we teach all of these things that Jerry said in his ministerial capacity. You know, it's all good. Things are, everything works out for the best. Everything is in divine order, all of those things that are true. And yet sometimes it doesn't serve us. And so we want to talk to Jerry today about this whole idea of spiritual bypass. And I probably am perfect to be on this call because my kids sometimes accuse me of my power animal should be an ostrich rather than a bear. So I will listen, I promise. But I didn't even know the term toxic positivity. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Do you want to talk about that stuff?
Absolutely. And so I obviously did a lot of research about this, and with lots of shoulds. And if you've ever heard me speak before, you might remember that should is one of my favorite words that we should take out of the dictionary and send off into space. Because when we're shoulding on ourselves or shouldn'ting on ourselves, chances are we're telling ourselves to do something we don't want to do, or vice versa. But so toxic positivity, these statements that you've heard before and we've all probably used before, and that's okay. There's no judgment here. There's just an awareness. Don't worry, be happy. Good vibes only. Never give up. See the good in everything. When I say that, my fist starts to clench. Stop being so negative. And they did the best they could. And so I travel with my magic wand, because for grief, very often it's like we just wave the magic wand and say, oh, okay, it's all good, I'm over that. And then tomorrow or next week or next month or next year, something happens and we explode in anger or frustration, or the pint of Ben and Jerry's that was there a minute ago suddenly is gone. Or I was in New Jersey a couple of weeks ago and we talked about the box of Tasty Cakes. Where did that box of Tasty Cakes go? Or the package of lemon Oreos, or just whatever. Many of us take out our grief and our frustrations with food. And so, or whatever the case might be, but just these experiences that we've not allowed ourselves to process through, that we're using other things outside of ourselves to process. So toxic positivity, and then spiritual bypass is also referred to avoidance in holy drag. I love that. Anger avoidance, devaluation of our feelings, emotional numbing and repression, and again, especially with food, drugs, alcohol, shopping, whatever. Overemphasis on the positive, judgment of others for negative feelings, and blind compassion. So being spiritual beings having a human experience, this human experience part of us sometimes gets put off to the side. And so that's what we're talking about today, is allowing ourselves to feel it so we can heal it.
Thank you. You know, if you do have a question, by the way, any time along the way, if you want to put it in the chat, or there's probably a raise your hand feature down at the bottom under reactions, why John can catch that for us, and we'll be happy to take any individual questions along the way as well. It's a big thing for us, isn't it? Dealing with ourselves and dealing with other people as well. Go ahead, Jerry.
It's huge. And of course, I don't know about you, but when I first started in, or y'all, when I first started in this teaching, it was my perception that, okay, everything is going to go wonderfully. And my life did change and things did start to go wonderfully. But the problem was that people just didn't behave themselves. You know, if you just do what I want you to do, if you just wouldn't die, if you would just drive the way you're supposed to drive, if you just eat what, you know, if you just do this, your life will be so much better, and allow me to help you with that. And sometimes we're successful with that, and very often we're not. And so, yeah, Deb, absolutely, thank you for that. So it's so incredibly important. And I would suggest that right now, we've been not able to go and do what we want to go and do for about 18 months. Finally, in May, I had the opportunity to get on a plane. And it was really embarrassing because I wanted to stop and kiss the side of the plane. It just, because I hadn't been out of San Diego in well over a year. So we've missed graduations, we've missed births and baptisms, we've missed weddings, we've missed all of these things. And now finally, we're starting to begin to get back to normal and being able to go again, but there's some grief there. And it's so important for us to recognize that. I would say, and I mentioned this earlier, that to me, there's the opportunity to grieve anytime whatever it is, isn't what we expected or what we wanted. So again, the death of someone, a beloved friend of mine is moving from the mid-Atlantic states to the South. Can you even imagine? And we won't mention any names, Dr. Carol, but can you imagine going through your stuff and packing everything up? And when you turn in the keys, wow. So major changes, major upheaval in our lives gives ourselves the opportunity to, yes, a wonderful new experience and wonderful new opportunities and all the rest of that, but also at the same time, grieve for that is no longer in our experience. Yeah. And
I would say from personal experience, listening to that person moving from the East Coast, that you don't always notice at first. So even the retirement or leaving the church, Charles and I both kind of left things that he did. I did 29 years. I think you did 30. And it's a big deal. And I really didn't notice for a while until I got quiet enough to see, oh, that's what it is. That's what's happening. I'm sad. And with COVID, our goodbye thing was on Zoom. So there were no hugs or no, and it's important to notice all of these things. And the question is, I'm almost 100% certain that this is happening to all of us. That yes. These times, it isn't normal, and I don't think it's going to go back to normal. It's an evolutionary process where we're moving into something we've taught about oneness and unity and things. But until there are no spots in our subconscious or in our body or in our, memories that haven't been cleared, then the fullness of the love and the light that we are, gets caught up a little bit. And
Right.
for us to do this healing is vital, and it's coming up in all of our lives. You don't have to be a minister talking to a lot of different people to realize that there's a lot of people that are getting stuck with the feet lifting through the muddy water and all of the conditions.
Yes. One of the things I talk about in the workshop has to do with trauma, and the definition of trauma is, and this is from someplace, I'm not sure where, but it's experiences that are hurtful and damaging to our sense of self. So there's an episode of the Golden Girls, Blanche, after Blanche's father dies, she says, "I'm nobody's little girl anymore." So those experiences that change our sense of self. I'm nobody's husband anymore. I'm not a senior minister anymore. I'm not, and you get to fill in the blank. So any of those life experiences that alter and change what we believed and felt and talked about ourselves can bring on the opportunity to grieve. Yeah.
And I would say as well, in many traditions, it seems to me, as we move into this, I'm thinking of going to India, to the Oneness University, and thinking, hey, that's our stuff. What are they? And they're talking about, you've got to feel the feeling. A beautiful class we did with the Michael Singer work, and the same thing you can find all over. It's, you have to feel, so it's not just grief and this change and all of this sense of loss that's happened with COVID. It's all of the things, whatever thing happened that the person you were at the time, whether you were tiny or distracted as an adult, whatever it was, if you weren't able to fully process it and understand it, or let it be then, so your heart remained open and it just flowed through, anything needs to then be felt and experienced so that it dissipates. It's the way out, whether it's walking in nature or massage or Jerry's wonderful workshops, or just sitting and noticing, being aware, noticing the thoughts, noticing the feeling. Where in the body is this happening? And allowing it to be. Everything is coming up for healing.
Yes.
And this seems to be a wonderful way of doing it, Jerry. I know there's some people on the calls that have been to some of these workshops. We had you come when I wasn't there, so I can't personally testify except for the beauty of your soul as you do this work. But
well, and thank you for that. It's so important, and as Reverend Dr. Carroll mentioned in my introduction, I love to talk about what we don't talk about. So about the process of forgiveness versus, again, the wave the magic wand, okay, I forgive you. There's more to it than that. The process of grieving and healing and feeling what we're feeling, rather than just using the magic wand to just say, oh, okay, I'm over it. Well, not necessarily, because it might come back to you years or decades later. We in New Thought don't talk about this, but wisdom comes in the most amazing ways. And I'm in the process of affiliating with the Centers for Spiritual Living. We did 3 days of Zoom calls a couple of weeks ago, so I never left my dining room for 3 days except to take the dog out. But one of the presentations was talking about this, and the presenter quoted from the Ernest Holmes book, Living the Science of Mind, page 252, and the book did not make it downstairs, so I can't quote, but the The chapter title is Let Us Not Fool Ourselves. And Ernest Holmes writes about feelings and allowing ourselves to not gloss over everything and say everything's good when it's not good, to say that we're not sick when we are sick, to allow ourselves to recognize and feel and be in the facts of the situation. So there's a little bit out there, and my intention is to make much more of it over time.
Is there, my books are packed or some are already down there. Maybe somebody's got, I'd love to hear in Ernest Holmes' words. Does anybody have a Living the Science of Mind?
Living the Science of Mind, I think it's page 252. And my apologies, it didn't make it down
I do.
down the stairs.
I have it.
Oh, Jeannie, thank you so much.
You're exactly right, Jerry. What did you want? I have a couple of things highlighted.
Read the paragraph.
Well, it's a
Just
couple
the
of
first
things.
paragraph? Yeah,
Just the first paragraph. In the science of mind, we do not say everything is all right when it is all wrong. We do not say peace when there is no peace, but rather we try to discover what is wrong and why we do not have peace. We do not say that people are not poor, sick, or unhappy. We ask why these things should be if the original cause of all things is harmonious, perfect, radiant, and happy.
Thank you very much, Jeannie.
Awesome. Jeannie, thank you so much for that.
So what about if you don't feel anything, Jerry? That's one of the questions that, you said that often people have, well, I want to, but there's really, I don't, not upset by that.
This was huge for me. And of course, if you've ever created a workshop or written an essay or an article or a book, you know that it's a process, not an event. And we keep getting wonderful new ideas to add to things. And so the idea that I got, and then we also had the conversation in a workshop, was if a dear one has been ill for a while, you might not feel grief and you might actually feel relief, followed quite possibly very closely by shame, guilt and shame. How can you feel relief for that? Well, yes, they're out of pain. And I got to admit that after about 1.5 years, and the trips to oncology, and we all know what the word oncology means. And yes, we know everything is in divine order. And yes, we know he's whole, complete, and perfect, but we also know that this obviously was his path. So to feel some grief, but also feel some relief is okay. And maybe it was a parent or a distant friend or someone that you just didn't have a relationship with, and you hear that they've died and you come from that place of, oh, okay, what's for supper? It's okay. There are no shoulds in this grieving process other than we should take care of ourselves. We should listen to what our soul is telling us and just allow ourselves to be as we are.
Or if we eliminate the shoulds, it doesn't matter. If you want to, it might be interesting for you to listen to your soul and see what your soul would like to do.
Right.
Or you might be
Yes.
Yep. Your choice. Somebody
because we grieve in surprising and wonderful ways. And we grieve sitting on the couch sobbing. We grieved with the Ben and Jerry's. We grieve watching 2.5 Men reruns. We grieve going to the park and frolicking. And all of those are experiences in whatever way our soul needs to experience this process.
For me, more and more, it's becoming, is my heart open? And so
Yes.
whatever it is my heart open? Can I open my heart more? Is it whatever can be allowed? And so emotions that have been trapped or repressed or ignored or all of those things glossed over with our spiritual bypass can be allowed. And is my heart open to it? It seems to me that's what Ernest Holmes is saying too, that there is that essential true alignment with love, with light, with whatever you're calling it. But that sometimes there's stuff in the way.
Yes.
At least from our human perspective, it's in the way.
Right. Yes.
So what are some of the things you've found, Jerry, as you're doing the workshop that are important for people or that work maybe? I don't know if there are any questions about that. You know, how do I do this work? How do I?
Yeah, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand or type your question in or comment in the chat box.
Okay, let's Deb and then Lisa.
Yes, first of all, I want to thank you so much for addressing this, because this has been on my mind for many years, ever since I found Unity and New Thought, almost 10 years ago. I believed that, and having been in the medical profession, the mental health profession specifically, prior to my spiritual journey, I was under the impression that we always needed to address what was emotionally hurting us. And then that would be the way that we could move forward and move onward in a healthy, emotional way. However, when I entered Unity, and I don't want to down Unity or the teachings of New Thought, but we had an incident where a congregant committed suicide, and I was very upset. And I was told by several people, you need to just move on. You need to be positive. You need to, you need to rise above this. And I was like, seriously, this is how you are counseling me? This was a personal friend. This was a congregant. This was somebody that I worked with side by side throughout the week, putting our church services together, putting music together. She and her husband went out with my husband and I. We were like a family, and it was a huge loss for me. And when I expressed my need for spiritual guidance, I was basically told that I was not living the positive principles. And I left that church, and I almost left New Thought. And if it wasn't for the people of ANTN, and specifically Reverend Pizzillo and John Carn and a lot of people, Reverend Alley, I could name probably 15 or 20 people that I met at the conference prior to finishing my degrees, that made me realize that, this was not part of the New Thought philosophy, that, you just slide it under the carpet and pretend it doesn't exist and then move on. And I love the fact that Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer has coined this wonderful, magnificent phrase that I have never heard before. This spiritual, I wrote it down, bear with me, the spiritual bypass, toxic positivity. I am so glad that you have coined this phrase or have put a name on this, because now things make a lot more sense to me, that there's other people who are of the same mindset that I am, that this, you don't just shove things under the carpet and move on. You have to let the grieving process exist. But yes, I agree that we all need to stay positive, but we need to grieve before we can probably put on our positivity again. So thank you.
Thank you.
Deb, thank you so much. Let me just say that I don't get credit for toxic positivity or spiritual bypass, but I will take credit for finding them and passing them on. And as you say, it's so incredibly important that we allow ourselves to feel this. And the last thing that I talk about in the workshop has to do with forgiveness. We don't go into a lot of it because that's a whole nother workshop, but it's so important. And whenever I do a memorial service, that's one of the things that I include is forgiving the person that left. Forgive them for if it's a parent or a grandparent or a relative, forgiving them for whatever it was that happened earlier in life that you've carried with you. Forgive them for dying. If your dear one, from your vantage point, didn't take care of themselves the way they could have, and we won't go down that road right now, but there are things to forgive, and so we give ourselves, as part of this grieving process, the opportunity to do that when we're ready as well. And if it was a suicide, most definitely the opportunity to forgive for that. So Deb, thank you so much for your comments.
And I add in those memorial services, hearing the person forgive you as well.
Ooh, I like that. Yes.
Or whatever you think or might have said or done, or they, you didn't do. It's a beautiful circle.
Exchange. Yes. Yes.
Lisa, you had your hand up too.
Thank you, Deb, very much for sharing that about the spiritual bypass. That did happen to me with some people. I have my 3 spiritual books are A Course in Miracles, Gospel of the Beloved Companion, and Joel S. Goldsmith, and all of them address this thing. And especially the Gospel of the Beloved Companion has this this parable, or this story of trees, branches of the tree to climb towards enlightenment. And the first branch is love and compassion. And that is where I go when people do this spiritual bypass. I remind them that the first step in spiritual awareness is the manifestation of love and compassion. So when you bypass, you're not doing that. And it's a reminder to reconnect with spirit and with love. But I did want to ask Reverend Troyer to talk a little bit more about blind compassion. I believe that I did that a lot in the beginning. A lot of scripture keeps saying, Jesus said, go ahead and, give, if somebody slaps you, let them slap and obviously some healthy things are not to give money. For instance, if somebody's asking you for money for alcohol or to kill themselves, you don't. So if you did that, you would have what I think you're saying is blind compassion. And, I think that the teaching of boundaries, healthy boundaries, is really vital to our work. It may not be completely religious, but for people who are starting out, or even advanced people who get themselves into these traps of spiritual bypass, or I love the blind compassion, because compassion without wisdom can be very dangerous. And anyways, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, Reverend Troyer, and also maybe tell us where you got those ideas, the terms toxic positivity and spiritual bypass.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Lisa, thank you so much for the question. Blind compassion to me is, if you're dealing with someone with an addiction situation, it is being an enabler. And I did that. I had a dear friend that actually was living with us at the time of Jerry's death, that Jerry had met through recovery from a drug addiction. And Jerry recovered and our dear friend did not. And so Jerry recovered, rebuilt his life, went on, but our dear friend did not. And so he came and stayed with us, relapsed, we kicked him out. He came and stayed with us, he relapsed, we kicked him out. And so again, and while we come from compassion and unconditional love and all of those other wonderful things, we also come from divine wisdom and discernment, and the fact that we're not here to be a doormat. So to me, that's the opportunity to use one of the least used words in the English language, and that is, and say it with me, no. We really can come from love and compassion and say no. And so to me, that's this, so recognizing, so here's the situation, I'm not judging it, but at the same time, I'm recognizing what is mine to do and what is not mine to do. Yes. So the sacred, that might be the next book, The Sacred No.
It also, Jerry, from a little bit just different perspective, it is compassion toward yourself.
And it absolutely is.
It has to be that as well for all of us.
Yes.
There's another question, and I want to be sure we have time for Abigail's question about the best thing to do when you hear a friend's son has died.
Reverend Dr. Abigail, thank you so much for this question. To me, a big part of this is that we human beings, at least in our culture, are not taught, are not trained on what to do when someone dies. We want to make them feel better, and so we reach in and use one of these platitudes, perhaps. Well, he's in a better place. Well, it's all good. Somebody say it's all good to me, as my fist was clenching, because we don't know. We're not trained on how to do this. So I would suggest reach out to them. I'm so very sorry. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to help. If you mean it. If you don't, that's okay. You don't have to say it, but if you are willing to do anything for them that they need, offer it, and then follow up every few days, just checking on you to tell you I love you. Is there anything I can do to support you? But I'm so sorry. Also recognize, and this was my experience too, really quickly, we did a memorial service for Jerry and had about 150 people there, which was just amazing. But there were some people noticeably that didn't come to the memorial. And my ego started to write the story. Well, they don't love me. They never really loved him. They're not there to support me, and blah, blah, blah. And you know, when something happens, we look at the situation and write a story about it, and sometimes get the cast, get the movie done, get it in the can, and we're all set to go. But it's all based on assumptions. We don't really know. All we can do is assume. And so as we start to go down the road of that, and what I did was able to change my story to the reason that they didn't come is because they didn't come. Might have been they were busy, might have been they didn't know what to say, so they didn't say anything. But since it's my story, because I'll never really know, I get to create the story that feels better? So this is a long answer to a short question, but Abigail, again, I would say reach out, let them know you're thinking about them, offer assistance if they need it, and then follow up every few days. But yes, he's in a better place. Yes, he's out of pain. Yes, all that other stuff. But I would so suggest that that just does not help. Or at least that was my experience.
And there's an internal asking as well. So ask your own higher wisdom. What is it for you to do?
Yes. Yeah. What is mine to
Sometimes just
do?
asking a person, what do you need? You're in the trauma, you don't really know. So maybe if you have the guidance then to offer, you bring the, casserole or the, I'll take care of the dog while you take a walk, whatever it is, you'd get that guidance as well.
And please don't show up, excuse me for interrupting, please don't show up at the door with food unless you call and check first. I had just started eating vegan and gluten and dairy free, and a dear friend of mine showed up with lasagna and garlic bread, which was just so incredibly kind, and I so appreciated it. But you want to check
Couldn't eat
first. Don't assume. Yes.
It's a big issue, and I think it's vitally important for us in New Thought. I remember saying, even in foundations class, you've got to be sure that you're not in the same shooting on people and putting, the frosting over garbage. That you have to have that inside cleared out for all of this.
Yes, because otherwise it comes back, and we talked a little about this, it comes back in surprising and wonderful ways. Where in the world did that come from? And it could very well be something that we'd not allowed ourselves to grieve from 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. Yeah.
For me, it's all about whatever we can do to have the heart open and those things unfold. I'm thinking of Rick Moss and his beautiful work, Essential Pathways. Beautiful work on allowing things out of the subconscious, unconscious. We don't know that they're even in there. And then, you yell at somebody over, it's like, well, that's not, or the driving or the whatever it is, or your, you cry over, I don't know, somebody gets a refrigerator, let's make a deal. I used to get
Yes.
that. It's like,
yeah.
There's a commercial and it's about fathers, and it's like, oh, I'm finally crying because I did the service for my father. It's like, okay, I'm finally crying about my father. It's fine. That's just let me cry. So lovely.
Yes.
Are there some other, Jerry, do you have any Zoom workshops coming up?
Reverend Mary Beth, thank you so much for asking that question. And I want to do that. So thank you for reminding me of that. And that's a great idea. If you wanted to invite me to Chicago, I would certainly love to talk about that, but also on Zoom. I think that's a great idea. So more news to follow. Thank you for asking.
If there are more questions, Jerry, or somebody would like to have you either come to their church or do a thing, where would they get in touch with you?
Just email me and I will put it, it's very easy, Rev Jerry Troyer, and I'll put it in the chat. Rev Jerry Troyer at sbcglobal.net.
And then Reverend Michael has a question. Reverend Michael Rogers, Center for Conscious Living, Morristown, New Jersey.
Hey, Reverend Michael, good to see you.
Intro minister. Yes, thank you, Reverend Carol. Well, this is just how Spirit beautifully works. We were planning a loss and grief service because when dealing with your congregation, you never know the loss and grief that they've had in their life, all the members, and to be able to honor it, we thought we'll just do a service. It just so happened that it was planned, and we have a minister that's a loss and grief counselor that would do the talk. I would do the MC. Well, we also had a workshop planned with Jerry, who said that he would agree to do a Zoom workshop with us, which was brilliant. And it just so happens that it was just weeks before our loss and grief service to honor all our people and their loss. Jerry was spectacular. I just want you to know that you were spectacular to our people. It just opened everybody up to be able to just, he spoke both at our church and did the workshop, but it just opened up everybody to do their honoring of their own loss in their life. And for me, my takeaway was that there's no comparison in what loss. If somebody lost their spouse, if somebody lost their pet, if somebody lost their best friend who moved away, it's grief, it's loss, and it needs to be honored and respected, felt, and processed. And you're just an answer to a prayer and how you handle that. And with our congregation, it was just brilliant and set us up for a most beautiful service and a service with you and a workshop. So I really want to praise you on that. And I invite everybody to take advantage of this workshop, Muddy Water, because there's so many truths to it, as everybody here is taking notes and nodding their heads. The other thing that I want to share is that we're now going to do a service this Sunday on animal blessings. And it's so interesting. I'm writing up the service. I'll be doing the service with our beloved Reverend Al. And I read something that says, it's a picture of a dog, and it says, "You were my favorite hello and my hardest goodbye." And it's just amazing that that's so true in my life. I'm a pretty tough cookie here, and I've dealt with a lot of loss, and I felt it. And trust me, you don't get away with a little boink boink on the head with me and an unusual comment, because I'll give it right back to you and say, yeah, okay, thanks. So, I just want to thank you, because it is needed that we just allow ourselves to feel our feelings, process it, so we can move on, so we can, in my most sacred moment with the divine, because I get blessings. I mean, my dog came to me after it passed, you know, and things like that. And I've had other people, and it's just to honor your feelings and honor them by your feelings and allowing them ultimately to go to their divine next expression. Yeah. And just to add to that, when people aren't telling you the words you want to hear, Jerry's absolutely right on this too. Lemon Oreos helps. So thank you.
Glad to hear they have those in New Jersey. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Reverend Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. We had amazing conversations. That was my first, as he mentioned, that was my first Zoom workshop. I resisted it and finally said, okay. And I was in Lexington, Kentucky in a hotel doing my workshop with my beloved friends in New Jersey. It just, you know, technology is a wonderful thing.
Charles, I see.
I'll make this quick. First of all, Reverend Jerry, you are one of the most authentic and real beings that I know in regards to the honesty with which you share your heart and soul. And I so respect and appreciate you for that profoundly. And, you know, I, for many years, used another term instead of positive toxicity, which is whipped cream on garbage. It really defines that metaphysically we so can do that, and that the importance of riding the waves of feelings and grief and whatever it is that is vital that we feel in the moment, that we do not push it down, we ride the wave. And has that helped me through? And you know, I love laying in streams. Haven't done it in the past 3 years, but I love, and now I live around in the mountains and a stream below me, and the whole majesty of that. The only direction we can go is forward. And that when we're in currency with our feelings, that we can go forward in a far more creative and meaningful way, because we are dealing with that. And then, oh my God, finally, yes, I can. You know, that affirmation for me, when I've done that deeper inner work, and, you know, I made this move to Montana at 79 years old, celebrating 80 years now and 50 years of ministry. And I'm not retired. Oh my God, never put that word in front of me, but I am refired. And I'm doing a whole new calling of Mind Your Own Becoming, about coming together to deal with that we stand for all lives that have not mattered, because love wins. And so there's a whole new journey. And I just want to remind you, yes, you can. And Jerry, yes, you rose from that profound grief. And you still allow the waves to come when they do, because grief doesn't poof away. It comes in waves.
Yes.
And so in the meantime, God bless you all. I'm so honored to be a part of Anton, and the spirit and the love that you all convey. It is profound. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Charles. And I will, as you go before me slightly, I'll be 79 next month. So I will redo that retired thing. But I want to rest just a little bit before the next iteration. We'll see. There's another comment, and I want to just read it out so that for the recording, people can't see the chat then. It's from Mary Beth, who talks about one of the most memorable comments she's heard was when Dr. Jim Lockhart at Asilomar, doing his first message after his teenage daughter's death, said, "This teaching gave me a bottom to my grief." That's always stayed with me. There's always something that unfolds from this.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Charles, thank you so much. You and Dr. Carol are my heroes. Just keep doing what you're doing, and I absolutely know that you will. So what do we do from here? What do we do moving forward? I would suggest looking at our responses to life. You know, there was a pizza, and I use food because I in the past have used food, or sometimes I've not used food. So no, I'm fine, and I don't eat for 2 or 3 or 4 days. Are the choices we're making and the things that we're doing really supporting us in our best life, or are we doing that because we're not allowing ourselves to process some grief? So be aware of that. Be aware of what you're aware of, and the choices that you're making in your life. And just anytime you think to yourself, it's all good, everything's in divine order, while you've got that wound still with you. And I will close with this, except for our closing prayer. My Jerry was from Kentucky, and an affirmation that we used from the early days of finding religious science was, "Tain't so, tain't so, tain't so." So we affirm in the affirmative, but we also say no, and this is not good English, but in his memory, "Tain't so." I get to feel this, I get to have this, I get to do this because my soul is telling me so. So
because it's for healing.
Yes, because it's for healing, absolutely. So let's pray, and then John and I will talk for just a minute. So invite you to take a breath and get comfortable where you are. And in the peace and the quiet of this moment, we allow ourselves to be reminded of our oneness with the God presence, with one another, and with all of life. And we give great thanks for the opportunity to be together today, to be open at the top, as Ernest Holmes said, to be reminded of the truth of our being, that we are whole, complete, and perfect in this moment. And in our perfection are those situations and experiences that we might judge as not perfect. So we see the truth, but we also see the facts, and allow ourselves to feel what we feel, to feel it so we can heal it. We give thanks for this amazing technology called Zoom, for the opportunity to be together, and we move forward in passion, great joy, and compassion for others, and most especially for ourselves. For this time together, we give great thanks. Together we say, and so it is.
Yes. May our time together be a blessing for all beings.
Yes. And what you resist persists. Thank you, Lisa. Absolutely. So really quickly, John, do you want to talk about conference?
All right, yes. Everybody should have received the email this week telling you to let me know if you're going to be at the conference on Monday and Friday, and let me know about your lunch. We will have lunch for those that make a reservation for Monday and for Friday. So please email me, use the Anton at admin@anton.org email address, and I will get it and I will put you on that list. Today is the last day for refunds. If you are backing out of attending the conference in person, and of course, you can sign up virtually, I believe, probably all the way up to the conference if you want to do virtual attendance. I'll let Bill tell me if I'm wrong about that.
At this point, yeah, you can still register for the conference virtually. It will probably close, I'm thinking, the Friday before the conference starts, just to give us time to get all the details locked and loaded. But yeah, the plan is to have all of the sessions except the personal workshops be recorded and also shared on Zoom.
Okay. And if you don't know where to sign up, on the anton.org website, when you scroll down and click to sign up for the conference, the only option is virtual sign up at this point. Anything else, Jerry?
Jerry is saying you can go to the YouTube channel, Anton Members and Friends. You can also go to our website, anton.org, and look under speaker series. And I think you can find the past recordings there as well.
Right.
See, that just takes you to the YouTube channel.
Okay.
But so direct, go to YouTube, the YouTube website, and click on Anton, or type in Anton Members and Friends, and you'll see, quite soon, you'll see the recording of today's session as well as previous month sessions. It's been a great pleasure. Yes, right. It's been a great pleasure. Dr. Carroll, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today.
Blessings and love, everybody.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Carroll.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye all.